In our last segment regarding the Now That You Know video series, we showed you some of the oldest photos that existed of Egypt dating back as far as the 1860s through the 1900 period, and those photos provide evidence of Egyptian occupation being predominantly dark-skinned people. It is important that you watch this entire video from start to finish, because there is going to be shocking revelations as pillars and strategies showcases correlations between the Old Egypt Empire and the shadow empire of Black Egyptians still operating today.
Before we proceed forward, you need to know that not all blacks in America are actually descendants of the ancient Israelites. A lot of the wealthy ruling black class are actually secretly Egyptian or partake in Egyptian practices adapted into Greek societies, mystery schools, or Greek fraternities. This goes deep, y'all. Why does this matter? This info matters because it will reveal to you that the spirit of Egypt is still preventing Hebrews today through the Black Boulé's tactics. This is, of course, by way of Black Egyptian secular rappers, Black Egyptian comedians, Black Egyptian celebrities, Black Masonic mega preachers, Democratic Party leaders, Black Boulé politicians, and as you may recall, remember the former Black President Obama's statement in Egypt. Are you paying attention now? There will be more on this later in the video. Do you remember this clip? Listen closely.
Because when they came the source of faith, they want to enter the place. They could not find the main entrance, which is to keep it up there. Then they did open all the way up.
Things are always hidden in plain sight. Obama acknowledges himself. Listen.
His name is Car, and his name is written hieroglyphic as Car. And actually,
that looks like me. That looks like me.
Actually,
that looks like me. Look at those ears.
And he was the overseer of the pyramid city of Cubes and Kefren and Menkaure.
You have to leave again. No, you won't. This is part 2 of our venture into the Egyptian topic for our series entitled Now That You Know. The word of the Lord came at the beginning of this year that this was the year of origins being revealed. Origins reveal the unveiling of the root systems and exposes what's behind the smoke screen.
Created at birth from a hieroglyphic, but the president's guide saw another resemblance.
Mr. President, you look like King Tut.
I've been told.
Yes, it's true.
He should know about King Tut. Dr. Sahi Hawass oversaw scans of Tut's mummy that produced this likeness. Though President Obama tends to skip the eye makeup, the president's trip inspired Egyptians to display decorations calling Obama the new King Tut of the world.
The modern name used today is the Black Boulé, or the secret gatekeepers of Black America. God is a jealous God, and he does not want us worshiping other gods, mingling in homosexuality, worshiping ancestors, or practicing witchcraft. Ancient Egypt has become a hot topic. Book of Jasher chapter 81 verses 40 states Pharaoh survived the drowning at the Red Sea and migrated to Nineveh. More on this later.
Some of you may not have realized that I'm not part of the club.
What club am I talking about? I'm talking about the club of gatekeepers that we all got to deal with. You know who they are, and they definitely know who they are. Hopefully now you will realize how the stronghold of Freemasons connects to Egypt practices. Hebrews need to renounce and repent of Freemason involvement and fraternity oaths. More to come on that. Ancient Egypt consisted of melanated people, just like God's ancient Israelites were our dark-skinned forefathers out of Abraham. Black Egyptians are now coming forth claiming who they are. Since they know who they are, then best believe they know who we are too. Listen to this man's account.
And I just said, where am I actually from? I mean, I know I'm American, but where my DNA is from? And so I said, well, let me take my DNA test. It was a 23andMe DNA test, and I took the test, and I was shocked when I saw the results. It came back, and it showed that I was actually a direct descendant of the Pharaoh Ramses III, and I knew nothing of the pharaohs. Didn't know much about Egypt, but everything you hear about, Bible stories and things like that. So for me, it was a huge shock, and that's how I found out about it.
Wow, so obviously you took it deeper and deeper. You saw all of these synchronicities in looking at images of the pharaoh, how much you and even your brother look like them, and your own company has like an eye logo that looks like the Eye of Horus, unconnected to any of this. So what did this open up for you in terms of your own knowledge and learning about this?
I remember I was actually laying in my bed on Christmas Day 2021, and I was going through my 23andMe DNA test, and that's when I saw that I was connected to the Pharaoh Ramses III. And again, I knew nothing of this situation, and so I looked up a sculpture of the Pharaoh Ramses III, and when I saw the sculpture, I literally screamed, and my wife said, "Dexter, what's wrong?" I said, this guy from 4,000 years ago, we look just alike. And she said, "Dexter, wait a minute, there were no pictures from 4,000 years ago." I said, "No, his sculpture was the Pharaoh Ramses III, his sculpture, we look like identical twins." And she said, "Let me see it." She saw it, she said, "Oh my goodness." And then I continued to go over different sculptures, looking online. And I saw the sculpture that looked just like my brother. If you could show that on the screen, it'd be absolutely amazing. But it was, and I looked at the sculpture and I said, "This looks just like my brother Joe." And I called my brother Joe and I said, "I'm going to send you something." And he said, "Where'd you get that from? It looks just like me." I said, "That's a sculpture of the Pharaoh Ramses III." And he said, "Oh my God," I said, "that's over 4,000 years old. It looks identical, just like you." So we were blown away, completely blown away.
Attention, descendants of God's original chosen people, you have an enemy in disguise. This enemy also has the same melanin, but is not of the same household. They are Egyptian through natural lineage or by spirit practices through Greek religion and methodologies. If they know who they are, then best believe they know who you are too. They claim who they are, but now it's time for you to know who you are. You belong to the holy God of Israel, not Pharaoh's house. However, you must be born again to see the kingdom of Most High. Tribe of Judah, you are to awake, walk in power, authority, and anointing to come into the fullness of Yahweh's plan concerning you. Hebrews do matter because you're the last piece to the global puzzle. You are the symbolic gold on the earth. You are God's spiritual technology in the earth. Yahweh wants to revive your sight for his glory. The elites fear you finding out because of the wrath of God upon them once you cry out to him. You are not Egyptian. Be ye separate and seek Yahweh. Stop wandering in the wilderness, saith the Lord. Return unto him, and he will return unto you. Be bold, be victorious, be Judah.
A lot of you listening to me right here, right now, you're not part of the club either.
Origins are being revealed by God to show roots of hidden and suppressed truth. He is revealing past, presenting future correlations concerning people of color and the remaining house of Judah that is on the verge of being fully supported, restored, and restituted.
What is the connection with Egypt and the Black Boulé? The Black Boulé comes from the Greek Divine Nine, or from the Greek Divine Nine you find under the Pan-Hellenic Council, which began in the public forefront in 1930. That was May 10th, 1930, where we have the Pan-Hellenic Council, or the National Pan-Hellenic Council, which is the branch that the Greek Divine Nine, or the Black Boulé, comes from. And so when you look into the term, into the meaning of Pan-Hellenic, then it takes you back to Greece, and it takes you back to the Greeks in 350 BC. This was the time of the Hellenic period, or the Hellenistic period, which was during the time of Alexander the Great, which was in 323 BC when he died, and also around the time of the last Cleopatra. In the Hellenic period is where we find the roots of the Pan-Hellenic Council. And from this particular period, we find also that Alexander the Great had satraps, or he had governors that would take over different regions of the world since Alexander the Great set aside to conquer the entire world. And so now the connection of the Hellenistic period, which is from Greece, of the Greek during the time of Alexander the Great, would take you to one of his satraps named Ptolemy. Ptolemy went and took over Egypt, since Egypt was thriving during that time. And when Ptolemy took it over, you had the Ptolemaic Empire, or the Ptolemaic Kingdom, okay? And so from there, they begin to mingle the Ptolemies, the brothers of Ptolemy, his sons, and brothers begin to take up the Egyptian cultures. It begin to take up the Egyptian religions. And so we find that at this particular time is when all of the gods, the goddesses, the jewelry, the practices that Egypt had done was transferred down into the Greek. And the Greek took on the Egyptian gods, goddesses, practices, all. And so this is the connection where we have Greek, the Egyptian gods, goddesses, practices, all of the same spirits that Egypt had even during the time with the Hebrews, when the Hebrews were in Egypt, that got passed down into Greece. And it was during the Hellenic period, or the Hellenistic period, that all of the Egyptian religions, gods, practices, ways were picked up by Greece. And through the Ptolemaic Empire, and from the Ptolemaic Empire, they're having a conspiracy with Greece in conspiring with Rome to continue to have power over the entire world. And so from the Egyptian goes into the Greek. The Greek comes into Rome. The Roman Catholic is where you begin to find your secret societies. They begin to break out in secret societies, and it ends up into what we call the Knights of Templar, which came out of Rome, and also the Knights of the Round Table. The Knights of the Round Table, out of that comes what we have is 13 families. The 13 families, out of the 13 families of the 13 secret societies at that time, 9 of those control the financial destiny of all the nations. And so from the Knights of the Round Table, they changed the name to Sigma Pi Phi, which is where you get the 9 families in the Pan-Hellenic Council, or in the Black Boulé, or the Secret Society, which was started in 1930 at Howard University in Washington, D.C. And so all of the 9 Black Greek fraternities and sororities are based from the National Pan-Hellenic Council out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And the connections come all the way from Egypt, all the way through Greek, through the Romans, through the Knights of Templar, Knights of the Round Table, which changed their name to Sigma Pi Phi. And through that we have 13 families. 9 of those families control the financial destiny. And so the Black Boulé, their 9 cover to protect the 9 families. So the Black Boulé is protecting the same people that enslaved them. It comes from the same Egyptian spirit. It's been passed down from Egypt through the Ptolemaic Empire into Greece. Greece conspired with Rome in order to make up secret societies. From that we get the Knights of the Round Table, as well as the Knights of Templar, which the Knights of Templar break off into Freemasonry and the Scottish Rite, which the Scottish Rite come out of Scotland. From the Dutch area, breaking the Knights of the Round Table, which comes through into the States. We also find that Christopher Columbus was a part of the Knights of the Round Table. This is why we find him stating that he founded the Americas. He was a part of the Knights of the Round Table. And so all of the Egyptian beliefs, the Egyptian religion, the way that Egypt had treated the Hebrews in the book of Exodus, and in the book of Exodus, is still in play today. The same spirit comes through Egypt, through the Ptolemaic Empire, which was around 350 BC. After the death of the last Cleopatra in Egypt, the Ptolemies took over. The Ptolemy's sons took over Egypt, and they reigned for 250 years. And they implemented all of the Egyptian religions, gods, goddesses. They took on the beliefs and the religious sectors, and how Egypt had set up, and the mentality that the Egyptians had when it came to war, when it came to money, when it came to power. They transferred that back into the Greek understanding, coming into the Greeks. Greeks conspire with Romans. You have the Knights of Templar, the Knights of the Round Table, which from that comes Sigma Pi Phi. They changed their names. They changed the name of the Knights of the Round Table to Sigma Pi Phi, which out of that comes 13 families. 9 of those control the financial destiny of nations. And the Black Boulé are the secret societies of the national Black Greek letter fraternities, the 9 families of the financial destiny of nations, which are the same ones that have enslaved them all of this time. So this is the connection between Egypt and the Black Boulé.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. What is your take on revelations coming forth on this topic? Please be respectful with your comments. Stay tuned for the next segment of Now That You Know, as we deal with Joseph's bondage in the House of Pharaoh and the blackmail scheme against him by Pharaoh's wife, and how blackmail is still happening in modern times. Also check out our previous videos in this series.